schools by tomorrow. Our foot is on the pedal. So as far as money is concerned, the schools are going to get money. But there shall never any time that we shall be able to satisfy everybody. We're not being insensitive, but children must wear masks in school. And I'm challenging every other person, should a child come to school without a mask, rather than sending that child away, make sure you get a mask for that child.
Let's start with that issue of face masks that the CS mentions. Is it clear who's providing the face masks? Is it the parents or the government?
The minister has said that it is parents providing the face mask. But he is also quick to say that those students who are disadvantaged should not be sent away. When you notice that the student does not have a face mask, you should provide it. So I think this is also part of the clear guidelines that Kai Ndimuli is trying to talk about. That what amount of face mask would be availed to school to cater for the disadvantaged learners, in the words of the cabinet secretary. So those are the issues there. But from the look of things, the cabinet secretary has challenged, has thrown back the burden of face masks to be on parents. But I think this is tenable, because a face mask, reusable face mask, go for maybe 50 shillings. Maybe if the students are given at least 3 face masks from home at a cost of 150, and also told or given proper instruction on how to maintain it, it would be adequate to carry the whole term.
The CS has promised that funds to schools will be released from today. Capitation is always a big controversy due to delays and bureaucracy. Do you fear that those delays may cripple operations in schools during this crucial period of reopening?
The schools are not going to open full blast. If capitation goes in time, it will be a small number of students in school to be managed by this capitation. So in my view, if it delays it, yes, there would be a problem, because there are certain schools which depend heavily on this. But if it goes in time, then there will be limited challenge in terms of how to manage the tricky situations in schools.
Incidentally, does the capitation remain the same amount per student as was the case before the pandemic, or does the amount increase due to some of the extra costs that the schools will incur?
What I know is that there is no indication that the capitation has increased. What I should believe happens is that the same amount of capitation meant for second term should be the one which is sent in this period. Yes.
The private schools have been hard hit by the effects of the pandemic, and some of them have even closed altogether. Do you foresee an exodus of learners from private to public schools? And if this happens, what will be the effect on the already overstretched facilities in public schools?
I think, Julie, what Kenyans need to brace to have is that this thing has really caught everybody unaware, And some of the schools which were run by private entrepreneurs found themselves in real trouble. And for 6 months without income, some of them went and they closed shop. But we have been given assurance from the minister that no child from any quarter will be denied admission in public schools. Yes, it will be a real stretch on the existing facilities in our public institutions, but we must understand that this is an emergency and we have to save also the children. They should not miss schooling. A little sacrifice will be required, but I also ask the government to extend the credit facilities as a guarantee to private enterprises, so because they have been very, very useful in trying to sort out the Kenyan population enrollment in public schools. You remember we have got 100% enrollment, and then we are also struggling with quality. And our private schools have been centers of quality education.
Right.
We cannot sacrifice that. So we should also salvage them the way we have salvaged private enterprises in the industrial area. We should also salvage the private schools to also come up and also survive during this pandemic.
My producer Kevin Owino, who spoke to Simon Kimutai of the Matatu Owners Association, and began by saying that there is no concern about the availability of safe transport for the children.
from schools are there. But there are those schools which do not offer transport. And students have always relied on public transport, matatu, to be ferried from home to their places of studies, that school. And for us, this hasn't changed a bit. We're still waiting for them. We have enough units, we have enough vehicles to take them to school and be able to observe the protocols that were put in place by the ministry. So for now, I think with the opening of schools, probably would give a lift to our business, because our business is really gone down. So the students are welcome. We will ferry them to school, and then from school we'll still ferry them back home. We wouldn't say that there would be unreliable or inefficient transport, because right now most people have, despite the fact that vehicles have had their capacity reduced, we have a lot of space for them. We have a number of enough vehicles to take them to school. So I don't think those parents should feel there would be a challenge. No. If their children are going to school, we will provide reliable and efficient public transport from home and back home for their children.
Okay, now Mr. Kuntai, I think if I got you well, you are alluding to the transport system that is taking children to school and from, that is day scholars, for those who are living within the location of the school. But how about the students that are going to travel up country, the borders?
I get you. Yeah, for those who are traveling back to especially high schools, which students do travel for, and the boarding school, we have efficient public transport that will do the same. We will be able to ferry them, and the time they close school, they'll be taken back again home. We have sufficient transport. We ain't lacking. Our vehicles are still there. It's only that the business has gone down. And when they come in to have services for transport, then it will be our business is going up, so we'll be very happy to give them services back to school. Parents should not worry. We will still observe the social distancing as required by the regulations. So we don't want to be agents of transmission. So we will observe protocols, and students will get to their destinations, to their schools, without any problem.
But Mr. Kimutai, essentially, you and I know that social distancing in our matatus, even right now before the students go back to school, is a challenge. I mean, I don't know, what is your take on this?
Now, I think what happens is issues of social distancing, it's not the only way you can prevent yourself from getting COVID-19. What is very important is that everybody must take up personal responsibility in ensuring that they have the recommended face masks, and all the time their face masks should be put in the right position. And this is what we are emphasizing in public transport, matatu in Kenya, that you have to board a vehicle. We will provide them sanitizing fluids, and we want you as a passenger to be able to take your responsibility by ensuring that you have the recommended face mask and that you put it on the way it's supposed to be. For us, it's very clear that we will only allow people into public transport who have the recommended face mask, so that they either don't transmit or they don't get the virus or pick the virus.
Right.
So it's good for them.
Simon Kimutai of the Matatu Owners Association, in that conversation with our Kevin Owino, assuring us of the sector's readiness for ferrying students from Monday. It'll take some adjustment from Monday after that long break. There will obviously be some challenges given the big numbers of students heading back to school.
Very true, but I allowed the optimistic nature by which the transport industry is taking this matter, that it calls upon all of us to at least make it a reality that let our students go to school. Julie, there's something which maybe many Kenyans may have to know, that even in the aviation industry, there are no changes in seats in the aeroplanes. What is emphasized there is that there is the hygiene standards have improved, and there is the protocol of putting the face mask correctly throughout your travel. I think this is what we must also embrace even in our public transport. It would be very difficult to remove seats or to deny Kenyans from sitting in seats, so long as the capacity is correct and we insist on using face masks throughout the journey, and at the same time keeping the correct sanitation in the throughout. Then our students will just be safe. One thing which we were encouraged about the reopening is that the Ministry of Health, save for advisory on underlying conditions of learners, they are saying that between ages 6 and 19, who are a majority who are those who are going to school, they either get this virus, but they don't suffer severity like the old people like ourselves. So we may not be seriously at risk if we implement the protocols the way they are supposed to be, as advised by the Ministry of Health.
Now, as schools reopen, we will have to grapple with the socio-economic impact of the long closures and its impact on children. Beyond just the formality of reopening, how should teachers, parents, learners, and policymakers prepare to handle some of the unique challenges that these children will face after a long period away from school?
In our proposals, we did ask the Minister and the Teacher Service Commission to make available psychosocial support. The long stay at home had a lot of things. So many children must be debriefed from those who had gone to do fishing. Some of them were in construction sites.
Yes.
Some of them were cane cutters. Some of them were picking tea. At the same time, some of them are to be rehabilitated from drugs and even other forms of crime. So the psychosocial support is going to be necessary. So I am calling upon even the religious community, those who sponsor the schools, the Muslims, the Hindus, and the Christians, to at least to at least come together and give a package of what they can support the schools with. This is a very critical area, yes. Yeah.
You know, my friend was telling me yesterday, SG, that the challenge that she has is the uniform. You know, you don't know if to pay school fees first or to buy uniform, because the uniform that was fitting these children in March now is a totally different story.
No, it is true, because like not just, you know, that uniform could have taken them through the year if they were in the controlled environment of school where diet is regulated.
Yes.
But no, while they were at home, after a short play, they come to eat. They have really outgrown the uniform. That is a real challenge. But that is the commitment and the sacrifice that Kenyans must make if we have to save a generation.
When will the other children go back to school? I know earlier you mentioned maybe even in 2 weeks, because after all, it is difficult to have a child from one family going back to school and others are still at home.
A friend of mine also expressed the same fear yesterday, that the child who is 4 years is not likely to go to school and is very envious of the sister who is likely to go to school. But fortunately, there are so many others in that category of 4 years who are supposed to go to PP1. So they are just there. What's happening is that in the mind of the minister and all the stakeholders, and the kind of recommendation we had put to the minister is that gradual reopening is to enable the institutions acclimatize themselves with the COVID protocol regulations, so that at least when other students join, eventually maybe after 2 weeks or even after a week, they already know and they have the experience on how to deal with some issues. So this is what is likely to happen. It is not locking out the rest of the students, because if we have 2 class 8s in 2021,
Yes.
it will be total confusion again. So we cannot afford it. So those students in class 8, those students in Form 3, those of them in grade 3 are joining them very soon. Class 7 will join the class 8 very soon, so that they also continue with their studies.
Right.
But what is regulating us also, the reason for which the first cohort is going there is that they are the transition group to doing national examinations.
Right.
Yeah, which are also pegged according to a timetable which are already designed by the minister.
In the newspapers this morning, there are 2 activists, I think, in Homa Bay who have gone to court to suspend the reopening of schools, and he's saying that this is just going to add anxiety to parents who do not, up until now, are not sure, is it Monday, what will the court say? Maybe he's preempting the court's decision, but you can understand the anxiety.
At our level, we are prepared to meet any activists. The agents of confusion are reaping a lot of resources from their donors to stop this. But let me just say, you can stop reggae but not going back to school. I wonder why these people are not going to stop politicians from holding public rallies, and they are not stopping the reopening of bars, but they want to stop reopening of schools. It is a disaster not to have schools open early, because we are going to take longer to recover that aspect of our economy, and it is going to be very bad for a generation. Uganda reopened. Tanzania did not even close. Most African countries have opened. What evidence do they have that when schools open, then we shall have the challenge which is not found in other countries? Let us meet them in court. In fact, I have committed, in fact, we are meeting this morning as a union. We are going to face these people head on, in court, if that is what they want. But even in the streets, we shall face them.
Well, that is where we put a full stop, or is it a comma, on this conversation of the reopening of schools. A very firm speaking Secretary General of Kuppet, Akello Misori, saying that you can stop reggae, but you will not stop the reopening of schools.